open our meeting tonight with an invocation by Pastor Randy Fredrickson from Simonson, from Harvest Time Church. And Pastor Simonson, I'd ask you to come forward for the invocation.
Thank you. There is a Pastor Fredrickson
yes,
also. He's Baptist, so.
Yes, I talked to him a couple of days ago. So
He's a good man, too. I just want to thank you for allowing me to come tonight and do the invocation, and it's an honor to be here, a privilege. And I want to commend you for starting your meeting with a prayer and being open to the Word of God, and you're continuing the tradition of our forefathers who started every meeting with prayer and wanting to hear wisdom from God. And so I want to just read a couple of verses from the Bible regarding wisdom. And I don't know about you, but I need wisdom, and I think we need wisdom in St. Croix County. And so I just want to read from Proverbs 4. It says, "Get wisdom," in verse 5, "get understanding. Do not forget, nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will preserve you. Love her, and she will keep you. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. Exalt her, and she will promote you. She will bring you honor. When you embrace her, she will place on your head an ornament of grace. A crown of glory she will deliver to you." And then from the book of James 3:17, it says, "But wisdom, the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy." And I believe that's the kind of wisdom that we need in any meeting, especially a meeting of leaders in our county. And so I want to pray for wisdom tonight. But you might ask, what kind of wisdom is this? And God's wisdom says things like, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. Care for the poor." God's wisdom is about humility and gentleness and being humble and open-minded. God's wisdom is overcoming evil with good. That's a mouthful right there. Overcoming evil with good. And love triumphs over evil. And so I want to pray, if you just join me in a word of prayer. Lord, we just pray tonight for wisdom in governing the affairs of St. Croix County. We pray for discernment to know what's important and what needs to be acted on quickly. We pray for wisdom for all the county leaders in this room and others, including law enforcement and our courts system and our judges, our county attorneys, sheriff's department, jail, supervisors, Lord, and all the county people, Lord, the leaders in this county. We pray for wisdom for their families. We pray for wisdom for the families represented in this room tonight, for moms and dads to be all that you want them to be. And Lord, we pray for their families, for their homes. We pray that there be peace in their homes and that there be peace in this meeting. And we thank you for wisdom from above tonight. And we do ask for your wisdom. We ask that you would guide the affairs of this county. And we look to you, the maker of heaven and earth, the one who put the rainbow in the clouds tonight, and the one who gives us the rain. And we just thank you for all that you're doing in this county. We thank you for these men and women in this room. We ask that you bless them and increase their wisdom of you. Your word tells us that wisdom is the principal thing. Get wisdom. And so help us to get wisdom. Help us to get understanding. And we know it comes from you. And we thank you for this meeting tonight. We ask that it be a great meeting, Lord, that things would get accomplished and the things that need to be done would get done. And we just thank you for giving wisdom to these men and women tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. If you remember our procedure, and I see most of you reaching for your remote, the roll call will now be conducted electronically. You will press yes if you are present, and if you're not, I don't know what you're going to press. accept it. Okay. 17 present of the 19, and we do have a quorum. Call in the administrative coordinator for his monthly report. Chuck?
Well, good evening. Good to see you all again. Remember, you don't have to do this next month, at least not unless the chair decides to have a meeting. So your next meeting is in August, and that will get discussed a little bit later on the agenda. The August and September meetings are proposed to be moved, which affects a little bit our budget calendar. We will revise that and get that out to department heads. Shouldn't really affect your committee work too much. You should be seeing on your committee meetings department capital outlay proposals and some work being done on their goals and objectives. We'll collect those next month and put them all together so that they're part of the overall budget package that you can review later in the year. The budget instructions were approved by the administration committee last week, and we'll be giving those to department heads on Friday. There's essentially no change for those of you that went through this last year. You'll remember that a request to have budget options of, in addition to what the department would and committee would typically ask for in a proposed budget, to also show what would happen if the budget was cut, department budget was cut by 5 and 10%. We've been doing that for a couple of years now, so the department heads should be familiar with how to do that. We'll try to assist in having the right spreadsheets for them so they can do some of that work. But the idea is to demonstrate what the priorities of the department are for not only the committee's consideration, but for the full board later on. Been working with Greg and Tammy Funk, Rich Loney on addressing our compensation plan. You know, some of you know that was put on hold a couple of months ago. We've been discussing a process policy and hope that we'll have something for you in August to look at. I figure that once we have kind of a roadmap for how we're going to proceed, there'll be quite a bit more work to do after that, but at least we can get that thing going. Eventually, you'll start seeing some remodeling happening in the back of the room here. I'm not sure exactly what the time schedule is for that, but administration did approve. The seats back there will end up being replaced by chairs that can be moved, and we'll have more meeting room space for this building. Some of you know we run out of meeting space from time to time with the conflict of meeting schedules. Finally, I mentioned this last month because we had a long-term employee, Dennis Peterson, retire from the finance department, and the good city of Roberts gave him their Good Neighbor Award for 2010. So we congratulate him. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. The agenda has been distributed for your review. 2 items that are on the consent agenda will be dealt with later on in the meeting, so we will remove from the consent agenda and would not be part of any subsequent motion that is made for approval of the consent agenda. Item number 2, which will deal with the date of our next meeting, and that is addressed later on as agenda item number 3. And we will remove the mileage and per diem report, which will be addressed later in our regular meeting as agenda item number 4. So those 2 are removed from the consent agenda. With that, Chair would entertain a motion on the consent agenda. Okay, and now to refresh what we needed to do.
Are you going to use it for the consent agenda?
We're going to practice.
Oh, we are. Okay.
Yeah. You need to hold up because there's been a motion made by Alfie. Cindy is typing in the motion, and then the seconder I'll call for a second, and then it will be confirmed here. I'll recognize Ryan. Second. Approval of the consent agenda. We now have a motion and second. All in favor of the motion?
Just a minute, please. Sorry. I have to put the motion in, and I'm looking for a motion here. And then Ryan has to second, please.
See, it's a good thing we're practicing.
All right.
Okay?
And then-
Ready for the vote? We're now ready to vote. All in favor of the motion, which is approval of the consent agenda, will vote yes. Okay. Approved. Okay, Esther, we have the honor of a fun presentation. I'm going to turn it
Yes.
over to you
Yes,
for
we do.
a group of people from New Richmond.
At this time, I would like to call forward to the podium up here the members of the Richmond Build Team and their advisor and the director of the Donnie Smith Chopper Class Challenge. At this time, Scotty Yard, Heather Gunderson, Adam Jackson, and Walt Campion. Please come forward. We really don't bite.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Scotty Yard, the director of the Donnie Smith Chopper Class Challenge. Every educator looks for a key that will unlock a child's mind and their potential. We found this potential in 2004 in building a custom motorcycle with a little-known group of students who had been forgotten in Bloomington, Minnesota. Those students went on to be part of the Discovery Channel Biker Build-Offs. They have been on national television, and currently that little program in a shop that had dirt in the corners when the instructor initially came in is now one of the top producing manufacturing programs for a high school in Minnesota. And a lot of it was due in part to the Donnie Smith Chopper Class Challenge. Students are challenged every day in our high schools to maintain grades, to maintain futures. And often it's difficult because you don't fit into the square or the round hole they want you to. This program allows students to design and run their own program. From conception to drafting to the design or redesign of a current motorcycle from the ground up. The student is responsible for every aspect, from financing to the bookwork. And when they arrive at the Donnie Smith Show, the largest show in the Midwest, in March at the Xcel Energy Center, they have to prove that they've done all this work by presenting a photo diary or a motion picture diary and all of the accounts, logged hours, and themselves, where they will be met by 25,000 people who will each be asking them critical questions about their build and about how chemistry or physics or English or history or the mathematics was used. What equation did they use to come up with their compression level? What was their ratio of red to oxide when they were mixing their paint or their glaze? They learn more hands-on in 6 months than most students learn in 3 years of books in a chemistry or math class. So we're very, very proud of these students. I'd like to present to you Walt Campion, instructor from New Richmond, Adam Jackson, build team member, and Heather Gunderson, build team member. This is your New Richmond High School build team who came forward in the last moments to qualify for this program. They won the People's Choice Award at the largest bike show in the Midwest. It was a landslide. They also took 3rd place in the open show, which was against professionally built motorcycles. They were voted by the Minnesota Muscular Dystrophy Association for their 2010 Black and Blue Gala to be the welcoming ride. That was against 100 motorcycles who had entered for that distinguished honor. This is a team who, with 3 people, Matt Fagan, the other member, is in California with his family, so he was unable to be here. But with 3 people, they pulled off this amazing feat. This is our future.
wants to take your picture. So thank you very much and congratulations. I want to deviate a little bit from the order and call Clark Schroeder forward. And Clark, I think you've got a special guest with you tonight. So Clark, if you'd come and give a presentation on behalf of St. Croix Industries, podium is yours.
I'm Clark Schroeder. I'm the director of St. Croix Industries. St. Croix Industries has been providing services for the developmentally disabled population in St. Croix County for 36 years. So we have 3 main programs. You'll find the detailed explanation in the annual report, which should be in your board packet. We served 195 individuals last year in 2009. Our 3 main programs are the day services program. We provide programming to persons whose interest or ability doesn't value work, or paid work at least. We maximize each person's independent functioning through activities such as exercise, social skills, leisure skills, community outings, arts and crafts, among many other activities to keep these people functioning at the highest level that they possibly can. The second main program we have is community employment. In that program, we help individuals obtain and maintain a job in the community. We have enclaves, work crews, independent competitive jobs, and supportive jobs. So we have actually a crew that works on a daily basis right here at the government center, working down in the jail. We do the laundry. Four clients come down with a job coach every day, 5 days a week. We have jobs out at Hammond Cold Storage, Farm and Home, or the theater, the vets clinic. We have all kinds of different jobs on the community, of which Bob has one, so he'll tell us about that in a second. Our third main program is work services. There we provide employment and community setting within our building. Our clients do labor-intensive jobs for area companies, providing not only a valuable program and interaction for our clients, but also a valuable service to the businesses of St. Croix County and the surrounding areas. 2009 and 2010, we had a budget which did not draw on any county levy dollars. We generate all of our revenues from providing a service to agencies such as Community Health Partners, the Department of Voc Rehab for the state of Wisconsin, IRIS, I include, I self-direct, is that right? Private payers, and also money we generate from production and contract revenue. We're looking forward to producing a 2011 budget that will also have 0 county levy dollars. Those of you who've been on the board for a while probably don't need to hear me speak much longer, so that's why we brought Bob down here to kind of explain a little bit about his program. I'd also like to take the time to introduce my most valuable employee in my staff is Colleen Hammer. She's the one in back there. She's our rehab coordinator, so she takes care of all the client issues on a daily basis, dealing with living situations and our transportation vans, which I'm sure you've seen travel all over the county, and dealing with clients working between the community and St. Croix Industries. So Bob, why don't you step up to the podium here?
Greetings. Greetings. Let me tell you.
No, Bob, let me ask you some questions. Where do you work in the community?
At St. Croix Industries on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And then on Tuesdays and Fridays, they ship me over to County Market, and I stock shelves with fresh candy, produce, baking nuts, walnuts, pecans.
How many hours a day do you work at County Market?
A day, 9 till 2, that'd be 9, 10. 6 hours, 6.5.
Okay. How do you get to County Market?
A fellow by the name of Dale drives a transport van, a small school bus, from my place, to St. Croix Industries. Then a red Ford Econoline van drives us all over the place to the jail, me to County Market. I arrive at County Market 10 to 9, quarter to 9.
What's your favorite thing about St. Croix Industries?
The people. Love the people. Because they love me. They do, they love
It's
me.
hard not to love you, Bob.
In all honesty, I love it at St. Croix Industries. People are great. Never have I had a day when I thought, this what a drag. I mean, of course everyone has good days and bad days, but the people there, the work there is, I need it. As you can see, I'm kind of wobbly. It's a type of a therapy.
What were you like when you first got to St. Croix Industries? What could you do now that you couldn't do then?
When I first started at St. Croix Industries, I was really wobbly, really shaky. I needed to push a walker when I walked. It's a real drag because you can just tell people in their minds are dogging on you. I'm 28 years old, I have a flippin' walker. I mean, come on. It's a drag.
Just remember, Bob, you're on TV. What's your favorite job at St. Croix Industries? What do you like doing the best?
Lately, we've been putting 4 of those scented plastic leaves in containers for deer hunters. Smells, oh boy. You know.
But that's what it's supposed to do, Bob. It's supposed to smell.
Yes. My favorite, putting labels, adhesive labels on packages. It's all good. I like it all. Of course, my favorite, I like it all. I do like it all. The leaves, the scented leaves, the scented.
That's good. Does anybody have any questions for Bob? About what he does during the day or how he gets around?
Oh, come on.
There, you got one right there. You're working the crowd, Bob.
Sir.
Bob.
Ma'am, sorry I'm blind without my glasses.
You're okay. Bob, how long have you been at St. Croix Industries?
5.5 years.
Thank
Yes.
No other questions? I think we'll sit down then. Thank you for listening to us.
I'm 28. Here's my story real quick.
I guess we're not done. Real quick.
8 years ago, I was in a bad motorcycle accident. I was in a coma for 14, 15 weeks. Trachea. This is why I don't sound so well. Really, I'm a cool guy. I'm really cool.
You're a great employee, Bob.
Thank
You've
you,
come a
sir.
long ways.
Thank you, sir. I love it at St. Croix Industries. Love it at County Market. I was speaking with Colleen. We've really got some great people working for us. I mean, for instance, all right, let's go sit down.
Yeah, let's go.
Clark and Bob, thank you so much. Wendy, are you ready to go? Why don't we have you give your presentation on public health?
Okay.
And if you want to turn on that monitor right there, and then you can see way over to the right. There you go.
There we go. Okay. Good. Okay, thank you for having me tonight. I'm Wendy Kramer, Health Officer, Public Health Coordinator with the Public Health Department. Public Health had three significant highlights in 2009. First, the Birth to Three program joined our department in March, and that was a result of the long-term care redesign that was happening. It has been a seamless fit. It's worked very well, and we're happy to have them in our department. The second one was the State Wisconsin Tobacco Control Program. It was reorganizing, and funding was decreased, and coalitions were changed across the state. So that was a reorganization that happened in 2009, and implementation is now happening in 2010, which I'll talk about next time. The third one, and the big one, was our H1N1 influenza pandemic that took a vast amount of resources for the Public Health Department. That started in April of 2009 and continued through 2010. In your packet, the data that you have for the H1N1 influenza, we'll just go through 2009 since this is the 2009 annual report. It doesn't include the 2010 information. I would like to acknowledge Fred Johnson, our Health and Human Services Director, who gave us 100% and plus exceptional support in resources with Health and Human Services, offering staff resources from other Health and Human Services departments. In addition to, we had support from the schools, our private healthcare providers, our VFW, volunteers, and the CERT teams, and numerous other people in the county that helped us protect and promote health of our county residents. Okay, let's see here. So this is our vision and mission. The format is the same as last year, except the pictures have been changed, basically. Last year I talked about the staff in the program. This year I'd like to show you the people that we serve throughout St. Croix County. So the core functions, they're identified in state statute. All of public health's work is based on state statute, the programs that we do and why we do them. The Chapter 250, public health is governed by Chapter 250 to 255. And in your packet of materials, you received 10 for us, which talks about the 10 essential services. We'll give you some more information about that. This spring, in the first week of April, we always have a Public Health is Everywhere. It's celebrating public health the first week. And Senator Sheila Harsdorf was one of our friends of public health who she was nominated because of her support for Smoke-Free Wisconsin. And this is our staff taking a picture with Senator Sheila Harsdorf after we were celebrating public health. Chapter 252 is communicable disease. I really like this picture because this is a little Care Bear that came through our department getting vaccinated with the H1N1 vaccine. And so our immunization program falls under that. Our preparedness also vaccinating people. This is our staff setting up an H1N1 clinic in one of the schools. Chapter 253 is our maternal child health. This is a nurse that is examining a child with our dental health care services. We apply fluoride varnish to prevent tooth decay in the children in our county. Another nurse is doing a well-child screening, a health check screening service on a child. And this is a physical exam that we offer, sliding fee service, or we bill Medicaid for this program. Our reproductive health program, this is a little staged. All the people in this program are staff people. So, but it represents our nurse practitioner and our reproductive health nurse and someone receiving a birth control method. Our WIC, our supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children. This is a family signing in and getting ready to go through the clinic and see a dietitian and receive WIC services. Our environmental health program covers the other programs of well testing, the he covers, he investigates mold complaints, rabies, all the environmental issues that might happen throughout the county. Our Chapter 255 is chronic disease prevention and disease and injuries. This is a picture of Governor Doyle in May of 2009. He signed the smoke-free law for Wisconsin, which will be implemented now in July of 2010. So the Wisconsin businesses go smoke-free in July this year. And we have a coalition of, that works for tobacco control and prevention in our county. We also have a Well Woman program and bicycle helmet safety that falls under our chronic disease and injury program. This is the Birth to 3 and the work that they do. They provide services to children birth to 3 years of age, and they work in natural environments, whether it's usually the home or a daycare setting where they go out to work with the children. And then these are several of our coalitions that we have throughout the county. These have been happening since our community health improvement process that has begun in the past years. As a result of the work that we've done out in the community, we have these community partners. And a big activity this year was also our community health improvement process, which was a collaborative effort with Hudson Hospitals. And we worked closely with them. And this was a display that we had up at a health fair that was at WITC with the ADRC program. Any questions?
Any questions of Wendy?
Wendy, how many cases of H1N1
Let's see here. I was afraid somebody would ask me that question, and so I brought my notes here on that one. I have mainly right here. I might have to get back to you on that, Alfie. Just skimming this. I have our vaccinations that we gave. I have Wisconsin data, but I don't have specific St. Croix data with me tonight. I can get back to you on that. Okay.
Any other questions of Wendy? Roger.
Wendy, where are we at with the CHIP program?
We are beginning the implementation, community health improvement process. Yep. We're in the implementation phase. We've had some meetings to organize groups, leaders to take on the 5 identified health priorities. And those groups have started to meet. We'll have a follow-up meeting in August of this year to touch base with those group leaders and see what plans they've put in place.
Anyone else? Wendy, thank you very much.
Thanks, Wendy.
Frank, are you ready? Let's call Frank Robinson forward to give a report on the nursing home. While Frank's coming forward, this will be the last report that we have tonight. Fred has indicated that the report for Health and Human Services will be delayed until a later meeting. And then I just make this brief announcement. When Frank is done, Cindy is going to have some ice cream bars for us, so we'll take a short break and have some ice cream bars in honor of June Dairy Month. So Frank, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but you need to understand that you are keeping all of these supervisors from eating ice cream. So go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Darrell. Appreciate that. First I had to follow Bob, which is tough. Then I have to follow Wendy, who has a PowerPoint presentation. I had a PowerPoint presentation ready to go, but mine was in 3D, and Cindy said that you guys didn't have the 3D glasses, so we couldn't use it. Otherwise, I was ready. I was ready for that. Yeah. All right. I know the ice cream's waiting. I'm on it.
It's melting,
I'm on it.
actually.
I'm on it. All right. You all have the report in front of you from St. Croix Health and Rehab Center. First part is talking about the number of patient days we had for the year last year. And for the grand total last year in 2009, we had 24,597 patient days. So if you take that number divided by 365, gives you the average number per day. but that's 445 more patient days than the year before. And in 2009, the nursing home received a deficiency-free survey from the Department of Health on care issues, and we received 3 deficiencies from the engineering survey on some minor things with the building, which have all been corrected. Going to the next part, we averaged 67 average of 67 census per day in the nursing home. On the next page, we had 72 admissions last year and 69 discharges. Of the 72 admissions in 2009, 39% were able to return home. And that has to do with our rehab unit and having people be rehabbed and be able to go back home. Social Service Department has 1 full-time social worker who handles all of our admissions and discharges. In the nursing department, we last year received a 5-star rating for the first time, which is from CMS, which is a rating system, a lot like the hotel system. If you're a 5-star hotel, same kind of situation. We're a 5-star facility, which is the top rating you can have, and only 10% of the nursing homes in the nation are 5-star. So it's something to be very proud of for the St. Croix County. Admissions from the hospital are our main source for admissions, and the residents are staying much shorter in the hospital, and therefore when they come to our nursing home, they need much greater care. I look at the type of patients we take care of now. 5 years ago would have been in intensive care at the hospital. I mean, that's the difference from when I started 26 years ago. We had to find garden plots for everybody to work at and find parking spots out in the area, and that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, people are there for high acuity, very skilled reasons. In the dietary department, we have 8.51 full-time employees, 9 on call, a certified dietary manager, and then 1 consultant registered dietitian. We have a committee of residents that plan our holiday meals, and that's a very successful program when they can plan their holiday meal, and sometimes we have shrimp or whatever they want for their holiday meal. Every Tuesday for breakfast, they either cook eggs or waffles right there in front, cook it right on the spot and serve the residents, and they like that right off the griddle. Housekeeping and laundry, we have 4 full-time and 3 on-call housekeepers who maintain over 62,000 square feet of area. The laundry department has 2 full-time positions, 1 part-time and 1 on-call position, and they handle all the laundry for all of the residents at the nursing home. Activities are provided 7 days a week, and with the new van that was purchased last year, thanks to the county board, I appreciate that, there's been a lot more outings with the residents, and they really have enjoyed it, and we've had no breakdowns. Last year at the pontoon ride, we had to jump the old van, so this is definitely an improvement, so thank you for that. Rehabilitation services, we offer short-term and long-term occupational, physical, and speech therapy. Rehab programs that included wheelchair positioning and seating, swallowing, therapy, ambulantation, splinting, and contracture management and pain management, and the use of modalities such as ultrasound and e-stim, cognitive management, and home evaluation. So before a resident would go home, our therapists do go out and evaluate the home to make sure that it's safe and adjust things so that they can live more freely in the home. And so we'll do things like adjust the stoves to have bigger numbers on them and those kind of things or the handles bigger so that they can use them. And just our occupational therapists work with the home to make it safer. So we also, for the first time, are now providing therapy 7 days a week if needed, and that's been an improvement for us. Our philosophy is that our residents don't live in a facility; we work in their home, and that's our philosophy. And I think that our staff truly is the greatest asset we have at the nursing home, and you can be very proud of the care that's given at the facility. And I appreciate the opportunity to be the administrator there. Thank you. Any questions? Buzz.
Thank you. Under rehab services, you used a word that I'm not familiar with. Could you just tell us what contracture management refers to?
Sure. When someone has had a stroke, for example, their hands may be in contracture, and so our therapy department works with them to try to get the hand to move more freely.
Thank you.
Other questions for Frank? If not, thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your support. Thank you.
Let's take a brief recess while Cindy gets the ice cream bars. Help yourself to an ice cream bar. Any other refreshments? Maybe no longer than 5 or 6 minutes, and we'll be good to go. 4 resolutions for consideration, 4 action items that are on our agenda tonight. The first is a resolution committing to the water system improvements and on the health campus in New Richmond, and the chair will entertain a motion. Motion from Wentz.
I'll second it.
And hold just a second.
Yep.
Yeah, just, and then,
Ready?
not yet, Roger. Not yet. And Roger's gonna do it the second.
Yes. Motion from Wentz. Supervisor Rebholz is going to second.
When you push your button, I get numbers on my screen, so just wait a second. Wait, please. Oh, sure, I gotta find you. And then second, Roger.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of resolution number 1. Discussion. You'll recall we spent a fair amount of time talking about this at the committee of the whole. There may be no additional discussion. I think it was pretty well vetted, but if there is anyone, now is the time to speak. Any comment, any discussion on the resolution? Roger.
Mr. Chairman, I think we need to take a long, hard look and do it quickly at the exposure that we have up there if we don't do something. And it's on that basis that I certainly would like to see us do something and get that water thing straightened out. Because if we end up with a waterborne pathogens in there, we could have a multitude of problems.
Any other comment, discussion? Steve?
Board Chair, thanks. Could you maybe just for the viewing public, since they didn't get to see what or hear any of the discussion at the committee of the whole, just maybe give a very quick overview of what the plan is from what we're going from to. Just no.
I can do that unless there's anyone else that is in a better position to do that.
Art's in the back there.
Art? Art, I'm going to prevail upon you to step forward very briefly and just give a very concise summary of our water project, what brought us up to here, our conversation and working with SEH consultants, and what this means in terms of the New Richmond campus. So I'm going to have our Building Services Director, Art Tobin, with no prior warning, come forward for an ad-lib presentation.
Short.
That's going to be very brief.
Sorry.
It's broke and it needs to be fixed. Thank you very much.
That is essentially right.
Where we are to date. We've got 2 issues. We've got an old water system that on the New Richmond campus had 2 wells on site. And those have been closed off, and there's been adapters made onto it to tie into the city of New Richmond water system. We pull in off of the low water side, and we need that to boost that pressure up to allow fire suppression to the 2nd floor of the nursing home. We also have in our building, in our facilities, we've got pipes, as you well know, in the current HHS building, which was a nursing home building. We've got multitudes and multitudes of bathrooms that are no longer used in there. So it's all part of that situation that's going on. On the east side of the facility, we have the low pressure side. On the west side comes in, just west of St. Croix Industries is the high pressure side. What we're looking at is we're looking at tying those two in together, and providing a loop that would go around, so we would circulate that water around that area. It would not become stagnant. We would have new lines that would come in there, and we would stub in lines, for fire suppression and hydrants as well. So that's what we need to do.
Art, why don't you also mention how this fits together with some of the needs that the city of New Richmond has and how we would be cooperating?
We were approached by City of New Richmond, and not to be part of their program, but only to be responsible for our own, is the best way to say it. Dave Carlson, which is one of the grant writers, or the gentleman that you met at the Committee of the Whole, made the comment to us in a meeting in New Richmond. He said, bad is good. And he said, and you guys are really bad. So what we're looking at doing is to be responsible for our portion of the project. Our portion of the project is supplying new water lines on site, on the New Richmond campus site. New Richmond would be responsible for their part of it, their development, and the rest of it that needs to be done there. We've got a water tower that we know that we have to, if anybody works on that through antennas or anything, as we, again, not to chew cabbage twice here, but as we've talked about at the Committee of the Whole, we can't access any of our raceways. We can't walk on the catwalks that are there. Anything that has to be done by all aerial lift on that. But again, what we're looking at is entering into a partnership. My understanding is that the City of New Richmond applied for this on their own and did not qualify. But working with the city, or working with St. Croix County, we would again be responsible for only our portion of the project, not anything to do with the City of New Richmond. And that's the way that this has been proposed to this point. Buzz?
Is it correct that there will be underground mains installed?
Yes, there is.
And will that expose the existing mains? And is there any scrap value in that? And could they be removed and sold?
We're going into it in the first part of it right now, and into seeing what our design costs would be and the rest of it. But we would have to come alongside those mains, and then also our fire suppression lines would come off of there. There is that possibility of doing that.
Would there be an increase in pressure on that fire line that'll maybe bust the pipes that we'd have it?
What we'd have to do on that, Elfie, is we'd have to go, right now we take our low pressure side and we boost that pressure up over 40 pounds. What we'd do then is go into the buildings. We'd probably do 2 sets of step downs. We would step down from the fire main coming into the distribution lines, and then we would step it down again at the building. So we would, instead of putting a booster system in, we'd put a reduction system in.
Steve?
Thank you, Board Chair. I was really looking just for an overall that the public would understand that for...
Sometimes you need to be careful what you ask for, because you might get it.
Yeah, I did. But the understanding was we'd be getting, we're spending roughly $305,000 to remove the water tower, to abandon our wells, to put in a new loop of water mains around the facility.
The wells have
on the
been,
Richmond water.
wells have already been capped.
Okay, so then, but with the, it's the removal of the tower, additional new water mains to incorporate a new loop, and the reducing valves for pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, we will then, when this is done, we will be on, we are on city water at city pressure as needed, and we're out of the water tower business.
Correct.
For $305,000. All right, thanks.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. approving the resolution committing to the water system improvements and removal of the water tower on the Health and Human Services campus in New Richmond. You'll now proceed to vote. And the motion passes. Agenda item number 2 is a resolution to place an advisory referendum question relating to the State of Wisconsin Segregated Transportation Fund on the November 2010 ballot. Chair will entertain a motion. Supervisor Rebels.
I make a motion that we approve this resolution to place an advisory. As you know,
Motion?
Motion's made.
Okay. C-card.
Please don't push your remotes yet. I'm getting numbers on my document here.
Ready for Ryan's second? Okay. Do you have a second?
Yes.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Back to you, Roger.
The reason we are doing this is that, as all of you know, the transportation dollars in the state have been falling off and off, and some of it is due to the fact, a good deal of it is due to the fact that the state of Wisconsin has went into that fund to transfer to the general fund to run the Wisconsin state government. And and then they turn around and bond for it. If you haven't read the stories, it's pretty much in here what happens. It's just something that we really need. Wisconsin needs to see to it that the dollars that we take for vehicle transportation and send to Madison are put into the road system in this state. That's what it's really all about, and not be used for anything else.
Further discussion? Steve?
As great as this, I mean, I understand the idea, and it's got I think it's coming out of frustration because of the legislature and the governor not behaving as they should. And I understand the idea why we're trying to put this to the people. It is just advisory, just a question to ask. But really, the thing I believe, it's an improper question, because our state constitution was never really designed to work this way, to be used in this manner. That we could pick on any department. This happens to be transportation, but it could be Health and Human Services. It could be anything where they're robbing dollars from one pool of money to pass off to another group. What happens when we put this into the Constitution, if it should go that way, is that you now have bound every facet of government to hold to that. And the government, and the Constitution, in my view, is really, it's meant for the people, not for a thing to be applied to. We want that Constitution to be a base, not locking us in on anything like this is here. And I think, for an example, why we wouldn't want to do this is to look straight at public education. That 2/3 funding that it state calls out very clear in the Constitution now, we find that doesn't apply apparently to everybody. If you were to look at your tax bills, half of that goes towards. We don't get the 2/3. There's a number of counties and school districts within the state that don't get the 2/3 funding. So I'm nervous, be very nervous to get locked in on a question like this, to put it into the Constitution. I agree that there should be some manner, that should be, a signal needs to go to the legislature and to the governor saying, stop this. That there needs to be some form of stopgap measure to prevent this, but not through the Constitution. Thanks.
Sharon?
Could I please ask how the Transportation Committee voted on this resolution?
Yes, we voted, as a matter of fact, we voted yesterday because this thing came in here earlier. It was 5-0. Five yes and 0 no. So we definitely see the need for it.
I think it's unfair to compare the transportation fund to health and human services. The transportation fund is a segregated fund, gas tax, registration, etc., designated for transportation. The health and human services is basically tax dollars from the budget, general budget, so it's unfair to compare them for that reason.
Further discussion. Roger.
If you'll notice, the last whereas on the front page tells you that Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan, and Ohio have for a number of years had a constitutional amendment that money had to be used for roads. And they're not really having some of the same problems we're having.
Any further discussion? James.
It seems weird to me that St. Croix County residents would be asked if the Wisconsin Constitution should be amended when, you know, it should be a statewide ballot, and it seems weird for us to put this forth. It might, to me, be confusing to the residents. They think they might be voting on that when they're actually voting on us to lobby the state for that, not actually making that change.
Roger.
I just attended the Wisconsin Highway conference in Wisconsin Dells, and some of the other guys did this last week. This is going to be a statewide request from every county that has a highway department.
Sharon?
Could I ask Mr. Rebholz, does that mean that this question will be placed on a state ballot or simply on a county ballot?
No, it's strictly, we're only asking, and we can only ask that it be put on the county. It's a advisory referendum on our county voting next fall. The state doesn't have to buy it.
Steve?
Thank you, Board Chair. I've done a little research over the weekend on, found this great little webpage for governing Wisconsin, and they talk about amending the Wisconsin Constitution and the process it has to go through. And I found it interesting, one sentence that they had put in here, that during the amendment process, the Wisconsin Constitution establishes the exclusive procedure for amending the Constitution. Only the people can amend the Constitution either by convention or by voting on proposed amendments passed by two different legislatures. And the Wisconsin Constitution does not permit ballot initiatives to amend the Constitution. So that's why I say the intent behind the question is fine. There should be no problem with that. But once this goes forward, it's got to go through both legislatures, both the House and Senate, or the Assembly and Senate, and it has to go through 2 terms. First consideration, second consideration, then it'll finally come out to the public as a vote. So like I say, it's, and they said, there was a little history, it was great, it had mentioned in here how many times the Wisconsin Constitution had been amended, and it was 142 times in the first 160 years. So it's possible.
Linda?
Roger, do you know these other states, did they have it in their constitutions from the get-go, or were all of these amendments?
I don't know that. All I know is that they presently have they presently do not allow them to transfer money out of the fund.
Any further discussion? Comments? Questions? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote.
Changes? Gonna ask.
No, I'm not going to ask anymore.
13-4. Passes.
and the resolution is adopted. Moving to agenda item number 3, this is a resolution to suspend County Board rules and bylaws to hold the August and September, those 2 months only, 2010 County Board meetings on the first Tuesday of those 2 respective months, first 2 months of August and September. Chair will entertain a motion. Motion Seacard. Second, Norton Bauman.
Sharon, you can press it. I'm pushing it. Okay, there you go. All right. It's on.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Again, for those, I guess, watching at home, that was a good suggestion, Steve. In our committee meeting, Committee of the Whole, we did discuss this, and on an experimental basis for timing purposes, to see if this provides a better workflow for items coming out of committees, we will try the legislative meeting, which is this meeting, instead of the 3rd week of the month, the 1st week of the month. If there's no additional discussion, I think we're ready to vote. Proceed to vote. And it is approved. 17-0. Resolution item number 4. This is a resolution to remove the mileage and per diem report from the county board meeting consent agenda. Actually, it would be to remove it from the agenda completely, and instead of having a monthly report, which is creating a fair amount of staff time, to have an annual report. Chair will entertain a motion. Motion Norton Bauman. I'll get you. Ready? Yeah. Second from Alfie. Ready? Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Sharon.
I'd just like to say that the administration committee took a serious look at this mileage and per diem report and realized that as a board, as we receive the report, the mileage and per diem has already been paid. It seemed to be a bit late, the report that we were getting, and created a lot of work for the clerk's office, and so we came to the conclusion that this would be a better way to pay all of us for our work here.
Steve.
Thank you, Board Chair. I'm on the fence with this as well. I think that reporting, by having it reported in the monthly packet, makes it a public document that anybody can come in and make a request for at any time.
It'll still be a public document.
That's true. They can still see that from a monthly standpoint. If somebody wanted to come in and say,
Do you want to comment on that?
If anybody requested, we could generate a report for them.
Sharon.
This report will be a part of the annual budget information, and it will be available through the budget process to anybody who wants to know how much money it costs to keep us all working.
Buzz.
What was the vote of the administration committee?
It was unanimous.
Thank you.
7-0. James.
Do you have an estimate of how much time it takes for staff? How much will you be saving on a monthly basis?
With the new sign-in sheets, we're working on a new program, so the reports that used to be done were done in the finance department. Now I would generate it through the program. So I have a variety of reports I can run if anybody's requesting what they've submitted or what they're being paid. And I can run it fairly quickly as long as all the sign-in sheets are entered.
James again.
Is there any similar report that is would be available on a monthly basis that would require less time, just so that, would there be an easy way to provide the same type of information monthly?
I can generate a report if needed, so, if asked, or if it stays on the agenda, so.
It may not be a matter of not being able to get a report, it's just that it doesn't have to go through county board approval. The approval process, because the payments are already made. So if they want reports, they can ask for them. Good point. I'm gonna call you. Greg just made a good point, and I just have him, instead of filtering it through me, I'll have him make it.
But I think that if you still wanted to continue to get a report, that you should be able to get the report, and it sounds like it wouldn't be much problem for Cindy to distribute the report. It's just that you wouldn't have to go through the process of approving it, which isn't a lot of work, but you don't have to go through the process of approving it at a county board meeting because the payments have already been made. So it's just eliminated from the consent agenda, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't still receive a report if you want it.
Steve?
Is there, and there's no requirement for an expenditure to be approved on a monthly basis, is there, from we spend money, don't we have to approve it as from that standpoint, or can a committee just do that on its own?
Sure. Once the budget is adopted, the committees and the departments and the board are authorized to spend the money that's been appropriated for the purposes that you spend it on.
And vouchers are reviewed, as you know, by the respective committees consistent with their budget.
Well, I was just trying to, I guess I'm kind of thinking along, say, school board lines, even though they're it's a budgeted process, it's still reviewed. I think we just heard that every expense that we expense is reviewed by somebody else to make sure it's proper. And then a committee or somebody is voting on that expenditure on a monthly basis. I guess I don't have a problem either way.
Further comments, discussion, questions? Seeing none, let's proceed to vote. And it is adopted unanimously. At this point, I'd like to call on the chair of the Administration Committee, Supervisor Norton Baumann, for some comments with respect to some discussion that we've had at Administration Committee concerning the finance function and some possible reorganization.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you all probably know, we had a resignation in the Finance Department at the Health and Human Services campus in New Richmond. And in light of that resignation and the fact that we're looking at some enterprise software for our county for accounting purposes, it came to light that we maybe ought to take a look at how we organized our finance reporting and the processes that go into doing the reporting, to be sure that each campus that has finance information and finance staff is using the same form and the same processes and accepted standards of the accounting industry. Therefore, we've asked the staff at Health and Human Services, Fred in particular, and I'm sure Esther will be talking with her committee about this proposed change. What we're looking to do is to take all of the finance people and have their supervisor or director report directly to the finance director for the county. Now, that doesn't mean that anybody's going to change their location of their job or where they work necessarily. It means that everyone will be on the same page, using the same standards, producing the same types of reports, and keeping all the department managers in the loop with the reports that they need to have. So that's why we're asking, we want you to know about this information. We'll be coming back in August with a proposal of how it will be accomplished, and thought that it would be wise for all of the board members to be aware that this kind of activity is taking place. If there's any other questions, Mr. Johnson is here. I'd like to ask Fred if he just wants to say a few words about his end of this process and how it might impact and improve all of the accounting information that's available for all of us, so that we have good numbers and information on which to do our work, with which to do our work. Thank you, Fred.
You're welcome. I won't reiterate what you have already indicated, because I think there's some good rationale to look at this. The key points that I've talked to the administration committee about is, at the end of the day, where we get our reports and how we get them generated, and the detail that we need as a Health and Human Services organization. If we can consolidate and it makes sense for the county and we still get those reports, I don't see that as being an issue. Now, I haven't had a chance to review this in any detail at all with Health and Human Services. It is on our agenda tomorrow night, so we'll talk a little bit more in detail about some of the proposed discussions. And I'm pleased to report that Michelle Petrick will also be there, so she can also answer some questions. But I see this as an opportunity to really gain more cross-training between departments, so that we become somewhat less person-dependent. And in an era where we have limited resources, the more we can do to cross-train and consolidate reports, in my estimation, the better. And again, if the managers and the Department of Health and Human Services, the Health Center, and St. Croix Industries gets the reports and the details they need, reporting structure to me becomes a secondary issue. A couple of other things. As we've discussed this, we've talked about a review process. So as things come up, because any changes aren't necessarily going to happen without incident, so we'll have a forum amongst the administrative staff and operations to review those issues as they arise. They're certainly inevitable. The second piece is we put together a process of review so that we can take a look at what staff at Health and Human Services and in the administrative suite in Hudson Finance Department are currently doing, so that we can make good decisions based on feedback from what staff do currently, and have an opportunity to look at the bulk of their work through a time study and a program analysis and a review. And I have a staff person that I've designated some time to work with the staff in our basically financial assistance, billing, accounts payable. There'll probably be a couple of other administrative support staff that will be part of this review. And so with those details, knowing that we aren't just jumping to make some changes and then try to figure out how to fix things that maybe we should have looked at early on. Not that, again, we won't run into some hiccups here and there. But I think with a process of review like we've set up, and we'll talk in a little more detail at Health and Human Services about that tomorrow night, and with a process of talking when issues arise, and with those two things, I'm sure we can make this work and potentially take care of some Health and Human Services reporting as well as central administrative reporting. So I think the process can be a success and presumably a better use of our finance department's time in pulling reports together. So with that, appreciate the opportunity to provide a little bit of feedback on what we've discussed thus far.
Any questions at all at this point? Sharon?
I'd just like to quickly add that we've been in interviews of potential candidates for this position, and we have, I do believe, some really excellent candidates on board for this job.
Ask the county clerk if there are any pieces of correspondence or any rezoning requests.
I have a rezoning hearing scheduled. The applicant is Gregory L. Nelson, Town of Star Prairie, to rezone approximately 1.5 acres from ag to ag residential. I have no correspondence, but before the administration committee members leave, I need your signature on these resolutions. And are you gonna, WCA? You will?
I've been asked to proclaim St. Croix River Awareness and Cleanup Week. And if there is no objection, I'm prepared to do that. Is there any objection to that proclamation? I'm not going to read the entire proclamation, but it concludes by saying, I hereby proclaim July 17th through 25th St. Croix River Awareness and Cleanup Week, and encourage everyone to celebrate and to engage in voluntary cleanup of riverbank litter. So, without objection, so proclaimed. Second announcement, we still do have some brochures here on WCA. Those of you that still might be debating participation, I would encourage supervisors to attend. This not only is an educational conference, but the breakout sessions are usually quite valuable. I'd encourage you to look this over if you're considering going. And if you are, do not register on your own. Have Cindy make your registration. That will coordinate the registration and keep it in one package, and she'll coordinate the hotel registration, then we don't pay the sales tax. And so if you're planning to attend, tell Cindy. Third announcement is that you still have a few pictures of the board that were taken last month right outside the jail. So for posterity and other memorabilia requests, you have an opportunity to get your board picture here. Fourth announcement is that it is quite likely that we will have a meeting of the Committee of the Whole in early September, on the second Tuesday of September. That would be the 14th of September. And the primary agenda item for that committee work obviously will be budget consideration, and we will use that format, the Committee of the Whole, to have department heads come and give abbreviated presentations to all of us. It'll be a time for dialogue and questions and interchange with department heads. That will be after the full presentations from the departments in the 3-day budget hearing in front of the administration committee. I think that is a more appropriate format than what we've had when we've had them in front of the board, because we didn't have the same kind of opportunity to really get into some issues with them. So we'll use that format. So keep that open at this point. That's likely the format that we'll use, and it'll be the second Tuesday in September, the 14th of September. Sharon.
Oh, thank you, Board Chair. Having you have that announcement leads me to advise the Administration Committee that we will meet then on September 20th, on Monday, at 8:30 a.m. Because as you will look at your calendar, we were scheduled to meet on the 14th. Thank you.
I think it's desirable to have the maximum participation and dialogue from supervisors in the budget process, and I think that format, to use the Committee of the Whole and have the department heads here for those kind of presentations, will incent that opportunity. So, anything else that should come before the body tonight? Seeing nothing, our work is completed and we are adjourned.